Hello, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and we're taking a look today at a horse named Zeus, who's a 16-year-old thoroughbred off the track. Belongs to Cindy, who's just starting this work. Now, it's interesting here, take a moment and go back and look at those two pictures that we just went by there in the beginning. And it's interesting to see, just even standing still, how the head and neck position changes everything. If you look at the first picture where the horse's head and neck is dropped a little bit, we see that he has a rounder appearance across his lower back even, and we can see the top part of the neck lit up. So that's telling me that's about where this horse needs to be working. Anything above that, if you see in the next picture where he's lifted his head up and you can really literally see the back has dropped, and that his hunter bump is more pronounced in the second picture. Also should be a little bit angled, but it just shows you the muscular development of the horse. So this horse is not, he doesn't have a huge ewe-neck or anything like that, but and seems to move quite well, and really seems like a good candidate for this work, and that he's an older boy who could use this work to help him get through the rest of his life, and you to have a lot more fun on him. So what I say is you're already off to a good start here. Now, later in this video, we're going to see the work in hand. Now, what I would like to say is that I'd like to see you do the work in hand work first, is kind of the idea. So we get the horse really stretching before we even put him on the lunge line. So, unless you have a horse that's just too fractious to be able to handle close up like that, and even if you do, it's a good idea to get them out there and just walk them for a while. And say we never want to wear horses down, and that's sort of become part of the modern philosophy of training horses, is people are always wearing them out. So we don't want to wear them out. We want to just warm them up and work them to their advantage, but we don't want to wear them out. We don't want to put them away exhausted every day, because once we exhaust all those muscles, more and more the movement, the damage that can be done through movement is greater, because of the fact the horse starts getting tired, just like you and I. You go out for a run, you'll feel when your muscles start getting tired, you start feeling it more in your joints because you can't keep your knees bent enough. So same kind of thing with the horse. So you're off to a good start here in the walk, and it's perfectly fine for it to be a little under-impulsed, which this horse is here in the beginning a little bit. So we'd like to get a little bigger walk, but we want to get the stretch first, or kind of the two we want to come at the same time. So I would have liked to have seen you spend much more time. We always want to get the walk right before we go to the trot. Now, I don't know if you just offered that to you or not, but it's much better. That's why we want to start with the work in hand and really get the horse stretching out in the walk before you even think about going to the trot, because if the horse isn't doing it correctly in the walk, you have a very slim chance of that happening in the trot. So spend more time in the walk to start with. Start with your work in hand, get him really stretching out. But what we're starting to see, for instance, right here, he starts to stretch. So, he's well on his way to getting there. For this short little bit you've done this, you're doing well, and he is getting there. But we want to be sure in all of our training, just like for ourselves, we want to do training that's, pointed at what we want to accomplish, get the job done without exhausting ourselves or the horse, so that they come back fresh the next day. But this is good. So we're getting to see some more walk here. So we're really getting to see a pretty good stretch in the walk at times here. Now, it's a little under impulse. That is, we wanted to get it a little more quick moving, so the step becomes a little more active. But if it takes just slowing down to get the stretch. Some horses are different. Some of them, we kind of work the back more. And if you have more experience, you can use the shoulder ins and leg yields to try to reposition the back a little more, which is what those exercises are for. And you can get there a little bit quicker, which is also why we want to do that work in hand first. But as I said, you're doing a good job here, and he's starting to come around. So what we'd like to see is the walk really consistent before you ever take trot step number 1. Right there, he stretches a little bit. It's because he wants to smell the ground there. And that's good. Whatever stretches them out a little bit, they'll feel that relief. But we just like to get the walk a lot more consistent. Now, it would be good for you to work closer to the horse. You're at such a long way from the horse in the beginning because, of course, we're only walking, so it's easier to stay near the horse. So your lunging can be more like work in hand, if you will, if you just work a little bit closer to the horse so that you can really affect positioning the hindquarters. Remember, what we're always trying to do when we lunge is to move the hindquarters a little bit outside the circle so we get a little bit of shoulder in order to get the horse to push up through the back. Remember, that's what the lateral movement is for. If it's done correctly in rhythm, it pushes the horse's back up. That's why it's better to have a little bit, just a little bit of shoulder forward than to try to do a really wide angle where the horse loses the rhythm. If you lose the rhythm, the horse is not going to push its back up. So we're always guided by the rhythm. If the horse loses the rhythm, we know we're losing the gymnastic quality of the exercise. But once again, this is not bad. You're getting some good steps here. I would have liked to have seen you, as I said, just start more in the walk, get more done in the walk, work closer to him in the walk, work so that you can really get him stretching out and really try to optimize the walk before you go to the next thing. Good starting out here. He's finding the stretch. Of course, this is where, as I was saying before, you need to be closer to him. Remember, when we lunge, we always want to stay at the top of a triangle that's formed by your hand with the whip in it and the hand with the rein in it, so that you're always a little bit, as we say, behind the eye. Right there, you're backing up, which is something we don't want to do when we lunge, because when we start backing up, the horse is lunging us rather than us lunging him. So if you need to change position, always try to do that by stepping towards the horse rather than stepping away from the horse. And as I said, staying a little bit closer to him in the walk so that you can activate the hindquarters a little more as we start to get the walk a little more consistent. That's getting better there. So you're starting to get a pretty good stretch here. Once again, if you were just a little closer to him so that you could affect him and then try to get a little bit bigger swing in that walk. The more stretch we get, the bigger we can get that overreach. The horse reaching up underneath itself is what we're looking to have happen. And that's what this allows to have happen. When you bring a horse's neck up too far, the back drops and it can never step its hind legs underneath itself. He starts to get into a pretty good stretch there. So for just beginning in this, he's really getting there quite well. It needs to become much more consistent, of course. But you're having moments that are correct. I'm not sure if you asked him back to the walk there or not, since I can't hear you. But that's starting to look good there. And once again, I'd like to just see you working a little closer to him, trying to make the circle a little more consistent. So every time that the horse loses the stretch, what you should be doing is bringing him in a little closer to you and asking him to yield the hindquarters a little bit. When you do that, if he yields the hindquarters, he'll step a little deeper under the body with his inside hind leg, and that will push up. That's how we get the back to push up. You're doing a good job here in the work in hand. And this is where we should be starting. So before your lunge work next time. He certainly seems like a wonderful boy. I grew up training thoroughbreds all my life. And, you know, if you get a good one that hasn't been wrecked on the track, they're wonderful horses. And here, just continue trying to open up that walk, getting it bigger so that when you get to the lunge line work, then that walk will already be big and swinging. I think really a lot of them get a bad reputation for their personalities because people get them having been on the track, and many of them have ulcers and all kinds of digestive problems and these sort of things when they first come back from that sort of high level of intensity work. Not that it has to be that way. Good race trainers know that the best horses run the fastest when they are relaxed, just like any other athlete. So happily, this one was with a good trainer when he started out. And usually the ones that make it any amount of time are ones that did. So here, getting in the walk, this is starting to be pretty good. I mean, he's got a pretty good stretch. It's already starting to happen for him a little bit. But just like on the lunge line, it's all a matter of just getting it to swing and getting it consistent. So wanting to get that little bigger step. So if you start encouraging that bigger step from the ground, Because I don't expect it to be better when you get on than it is without you on there, at least not in the beginning. Because remember, when we add weight, so if we get a horse moving correctly without you up there, that's kind of the idea. So we teach him, we teach him to position the back in the right place, and then we get up there, and hopefully we've built enough strength that the horse can maintain it. Now, however, if you get on, the horse immediately just collapses out from underneath you, that's what you should tell me, or that is its back collapses out from underneath you. That's what should tell a good rider that, hey, I need some more strengthening work before I can actually ride this horse. But so many horses nowadays, they get ridden too soon, too early. Their backs start to drop, and then the people start trying to cram them into a frame. That's what's led to so many horses having kissing spine these days, people not understanding top-line development. So what I see here, sometimes when you're down there, it's hard to see what you're doing there. It's such a small picture, but as you come up here, once again, this is not bad at all. It's a good beginning for what you're doing. Just know that what we have to get happening is a much bigger, more active swinging walk. Now coming through there, now that's really quite nice. When you get it like that, it starts to get a little more active, so that's better than what you had before. So just keep trying to open that up, and as I said, the more you open that up from the ground before you get up there, the easier it's going to be, once you do get up there. And you can kind of see when he slows down, when he gets too slow, when there's just not any impulsion, there's no energy moving through the horse, then the head starts to drift up and the back sort of starts to fall out from underneath you. Your friend seems to be doing pretty well there. There we go. It's a little difficult for me to see when you're way down that far in there. This picture's so small here, but once again, what we don't want to do, as long as you can keep coming back and getting some level of the stretch, good. Like you see him there, he starts to have a little more swing in that trot. But you know, this was a horse that looks like it would move very easily over its back, and it wants to move over its back. So once again, the more you do this, the easier it's going to become for him, and the easier his whole job is going to be. Because you can see this horse, even though the neck moves up and down, even though he gets a little slow at times, he doesn't just completely collapse and go completely hollow and move like he's on square wheels. So you've got a good candidate to start here that I don't think is going to take you a real lot of time to come around with. And of course, it's a good thing you're starting all this work here at 16 years old. That shouldn't be an old horse. We've come to think of a 16-year-old horse these days as being kind of an old horse because so few horses live past 8 or 9 and still be sound these days. We should be thinking about having 25 years of good work off of a horse if we do it correctly. Yeah, having some good moments when the horse gets its back underneath you a little bit. So the goal now would be to go back and really try to improve that walk there. He starts to have a pretty good swing. It's still not deep enough, but you're getting there. It's, at least he looks relaxed and he's swinging pretty together with his diagonal pairs. But there's much more to be gotten from what I see here. So go back and start, once again, every day, start with the work in hand if you can, and really try to work on that walk and really get it as big as you can and swinging and active before you go to the lunge line, and then on the lunge line, stay closer to the horse and try to get that walk a little more swinging and active. And of course, always remember, if you go all the way around this big arena and you haven't gotten the horse to stretch, then it needs to come back to the walk. That is if you're in the trot. So good work today. I look forward to seeing your next one. I'm sure this horse is going to improve greatly. I really enjoyed it. Really lovely horse, and you're well on your way to getting there. Take your time and take my suggestions, and I think you'll get there.